The news that seriously alarmed American society. American President Donald Trump has declared a state of emergency in the area of security in Washington, District of Columbia. Moreover, Trump has sent the National Guard to Washington and is taking control of the city's police. He stated that the situation in Washington is critical and that it is urgent to deploy the military onto the streets in order to restore order. According to him, Washington needs to fight crime and homelessness, although the mayor of the city has already stated that the situation is absolutely not critical. Moreover, according to her and the latest estimates, in fact, over the past 2 years, crime in Washington has actually decreased significantly. And there is no need to deploy the National Guard to the streets. That is essentially armed military personnel. Trump insists the situation is critical, which is why he's sending in the military. My name is Alexei Pichi. Today is August 12th, according to the calendar. Let's figure out together what's happening and why Trump is sending the National Guard to yet another American city. Let me remind you, the last time Trump sent the National Guard to Los Angeles, they ended up staying there for almost 2 months and then just left. Before we begin, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, give it a like, leave any comment you want, and be sure to subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pichi News. The link is below. So, United States President Donald Trump announced that he is sending the National Guard to Washington, District of Columbia, and taking control of the city's police, promising to fight crime and homelessness in the city. Trump declared a public safety emergency and sent 800 National Guard troops who will reinforce the hundreds of federal law enforcement officers already deployed in Washington over the past year. As Trump stated, this is turning into a situation of complete and total lawlessness. The city's mayor, Muriel Bowser, refuted the president's statement about crime. And although there was a spike in 2023, statistics show that since then it has actually decreased. The level of violent crime in the city is also at a 30-year low. Nevertheless, United States Attorney General Pam Bondi, who will now head the Washington police while it remains under federal control, stated, "I am announcing a historic step to save our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, chaos, poverty, and the worst consequences." Today is Liberation Day in Washington, and we are going to take back our capital. Next. Trump stated that Washington is overrun by violent gangs and bloodthirsty criminals, as well as drug addicts and the homeless. And that's why we need to fight against them and all of them. Trump vows to use the National Guard to remove all homeless people from Washington. According to the city's Metropolitan Police Department, the number of murders from 2023 to 2024 decreased by 32% and reached its lowest level since 2019. The data shows that this year there was another significant drop, an additional 12%. Mayor Bowser. This Democrat admitted that in 2023 there was a terrible spike in crime, which reflects a nationwide trend. However, she rejected any claims of a crime spike in the city. Right now, as she stated, we are not seeing a spike in crime. The president is well aware of our efforts. Responding to a question about the comment made by Deputy White House Chief of Staff Stephen Miller that Washington is more violent than Baghdad, Bowser stated, quote, "Any comparison with a country engulfed in war is an exaggeration and a lie." 800 National Guard service members, of whom between 100 and 200 will be deployed at any given time, will be deployed to support law enforcement agencies. United States Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth stated that the National Guard members will arrive in Washington by the end of this week. In addition, the deployment. Trump stated that he will place the city police under direct federal control using the District of Columbia Home Rule Act. This law was enacted by President Richard Nixon to allow the residents of Washington, it's the only city in the United States that doesn't belong to any of the 50 states, to elect a city council and a mayor. However, the law contains a provision that allows the President of the United States to take control of the city's police if special emergency circumstances arise. If the President intends to take control of the police for more than 48 hours, he must send a written notification to Congress. And even if such a notification is provided, he can control the city's police for no longer than 30 days. On Sunday, responding to a question about the possibility of transferring control of the police to the president, Washington Mayor Bowser said, "Our law has very specific provisions that allow for this. None of these conditions currently exist in our city." She said that she is concerned about how the National Guard is enforcing local laws. A little later on Monday, Bowser held a press conference where she called the president's order alarming and unprecedented. She said that Trump's view of the city was shaped by his experience dealing with COVID-19 during his first term, which she said was a difficult time for the district. Here is her quote, "Indeed, after the COVID-19 pandemic, we experienced a spike in crime. We quickly passed laws that cleared our streets of criminals committing serious offenses. Thanks to these efforts, we are seeing a significant decrease in the crime rate." Well, aside from crime, Trump also spoke in detail about the issue of homelessness. Trump stated that he would somehow get rid of slums and, in general, the homeless on the streets. He added that the homeless would be relocated to other places, but did not specify exactly where. In fact, Trump stated that the homeless need to be removed from the streets for a better image, because Trump further added that everything should be perfect when high-ranking officials and foreign leaders visit the city. Then his quote, "This is a very vivid reflection of our country. If our capital is dirty, then our whole country is dirty, and in this way we are not respected." Local organizations working with the homeless in Washington reported that they have indeed seen progress in recent years. And so, according to Ralph Boyd, he is the president of the organization Other Mind. It's a group that provides city residents with housing, clothing, and other social services. And according to him, in 2025, the number of homeless people in Washington decreased by almost 20% compared to 5 years ago. He also stated that Trump's proposal to relocate people out of the city is not a long-term solution. According to him, quote, "All we will achieve is moving the problem to other places, to communities that may be less prepared to deal with it than we are." Meanwhile, protesters concerned about Trump's actions have already gathered near the White House. And so they say, hands off Washington and let's protect self-government. Obviously, yes, Washingtonians are very concerned about this, because I'll repeat, this is the only city that is not part of any of the 50 states. And in fact, they are probably the only ones with this level of self-government. Trump says, "That's it, I'm taking charge now." The president acted after a series of recent social media posts criticizing Washington's management, and Trump has long complained about the city's Democratic leadership for its handling of crime and homelessness. And let me repeat, exactly the same thing happened in Los Angeles a couple of months ago. Trump also basically said that the city is run by Democrats, that's why they can't handle it, and he sends the National Guard there. Now I'm going to look into how it all ended. You know, the National Guard stayed there for almost 2 months and then just packed up and left. That's it. Trump also expressed concern about a former employee of the Department of Government Efficiency who was attacked in Washington last week. At the press conference on Monday, Trump stated that the employee was, quote, "brutally beaten by a gang of roaming thugs and left bleeding." He also mentioned other federal government employees and elected officials who were attacked, including, well, a Democratic senator and an intern. According to Trump, everything that's happening there is a threat to America. And let me remind you once again that Trump first deployed the National Guard in June when he stopped. He ordered 2,000 National Guard troops to be sent to Los Angeles to suppress the riots related to raids against illegal migrants. The last time the National Guard was deployed in Washington was in response to the Capitol riots in 2021 when supporters of Donald Trump stormed the Capitol. That was the last time the National Guard was in Washington. Now Trump is sending them back there again. Well, obviously Trump is once again trying to take control in another city run by Democrats, and in this way he's showing that supposedly the Democrats can't handle anything. He is forced to send in the National Guard, take control of the police just to restore order. Well, obviously this is to some extent a political manipulation. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinion and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone.